Cocroft, your Get Your Life coach, and I'm so excited about this video. Been inspired to do it today. This is a guide for professional women out there in these streets who want more. And the reason I wanted to do this specifically for professional women, I have over the years been a program manager, an executive director, company director of my own nonprofit. I'm currently the board chair of my nonprofit. I've been a leadership coach and consultant for a number of years, coaching 30,000 different leaders plus over the country and in Mexico and Canada. I've also done trainings in places overseas when it comes to doing online trainings for people in different places. So I've trained a lot of different people, coached a lot of different people. And what I want to say is that I have learned with the women that I've worked with over the years, and I've worked with men too, but typically I have done a lot of work with women leaders in spaces, specifically in government, education, and corporate. And what I've noticed is that all of them tend to want more. And it is more income, more influence, more impact, more joy, more personal time, all of that. So I really wanted to create a video that was this guide on how professional women can get more, because for some reason there has been this narrative that whatever is in front of them is all that is available. And when it comes to wanting more, the first thing that every woman gets to get is time to breathe. And what I mean by that is just time to take yourself out of whatever your current hamster wheel is of life and breathe. Like literally take some time outside of your regular workday, outside of the regular whatever you have going on, and breathe. Like feel your body, relax your body, feel the tension that's in your body, and like literally let it relax while breathing. Taking some time away from your everyday to just breathe is going to help you get back to a place of neutral to exude some more positive emotions. And when we exude positive emotions, we're typically more creative. We can be better at problem solving for our lives. And sometimes we get stuck into not realizing what it would take to have more money, more influence, more peace, more balance in our life because we haven't taken the moment to stop and literally just breathe, give our bodies a chance to rest. And so that can just be for 5 minutes, and it can also be for like a whole day, right? That you cut off all the things that you have responsibilities for and really take a moment to relax and breathe and insert joy. And so the first thing I would say is just take a moment to breathe and really get yourself in a quiet space and ask yourself, what is it that I need right now? What would be advice that I would give myself if I was outside of myself right now? What would that advice be? I actually just did this with a client yesterday. We were on a call and they were talking about how it was so easy for them to give other women advice. And so they were telling other women, like, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z for yourself. But she found it so hard to do it for her own life. And so we basically did what I'm telling you to do is this activity where you really just took a moment to, or we really took a moment to visualize and breathe and relax our bodies and really look at herself outside of herself and what would be the advice she would give herself. And so, in that moment of pause, in that moment where she got a chance to observe herself, observe her life outside of herself, and giving herself advice as if she was someone totally different, she felt more connected to the thing that she would have told herself versus when she was saying, I could do this for me, but I don't know if I'm worthy enough to do it. Maybe other people can do it, but that's something I'm not able to do. She actually felt way more connected to her advice when she looked at herself outside of herself. And so, what I want you to do is take a moment to breathe, relax, find a moment in your life. And if you feel like you don't have a moment, that's the problem now. I want you to choose one. Just don't think too hard on it. Choose a date and a time. It can be right away after you're done watching this video, and just take a moment to breathe and really think about when you're breathing, how your body is feeling, releasing that tension in your body, and asking yourself what you need right now. Asking yourself what you need right now and talking to yourself outside of yourself. Because sometimes when we start telling ourselves what we ought to do, we'll overthink it or we'll make excuses for it and all that. But if we had to give ourselves advice, what would be the highest level of advice we would give ourselves in that current moment? And it's going to be easier for you to give that advice to yourself when you're in a place of calm, when you're in a place of relaxation. And so I would advise you to do that. And so when you do that, you're going to realize that most times you are going to be telling yourself to do something that is going to quickly give you more relaxation in your everyday and or allow you to experience joy. So I think that we have become adults. Obviously we have become adults, and because of that reason we have really underestimated the beauty of play, the beauty of joy, the beauty of doing things that will allow us to be more creative, to experience laughter, to experience all these positive emotions, because these things actually help to ignite us to be more creative, to be more confident, to be more courageous. Because if you imagine as children, regardless of what your childhood was like, even if you want to observe other children, most children are more um, just excited about saying things that are off the wall or doing things that are uncomfortable or out the box, or they just are really saturated in just the joy of life. And so if you are a recovering cynic, as I am, a recovering cynic, you might say to yourself, or be tempted to feel like, oh, well, that's too easy. And I would, really challenge you to say, like, let go of that thought and just give yourself the opportunity to experience more joy. And so when you have this conversation with yourself, which I think is number one, to give yourself that moment of pause, have this conversation with yourself in the sense of just what advice would you give yourself, and take your own advice. And your own advice will likely be advice that will cause you to rest or to have more joy. This person's advice, I won't tell you exactly what she said, but her advice was in the area of, go take some time and walk, go take some time and talk to a friend, go, take some time and actually eat your lunch and enjoy your lunch without talking to anyone. So these are types of things that you will probably tell yourself in order to allow you to start feeling human again, not being in this hamster wheel or on automatic. And when you're in that spot, you are in the best place to tell yourself what is the next step to be able to experience more joy, more influence, be more impactful, have more income, all of that, because you're getting back to yourself. And it's hard to get back to yourself when you're in the hamster wheel, you're in the whirlwind of everybody else's stuff. And so, in this guide to getting more for yourself, the first thing is get back to yourself. And the only way to get back to yourself is to get to a place of calm, to breathe, to ask yourself, what is it that you need in this moment, and following those directions. Even if those directions don't, again, seem directly related to more money, more influence, more balance, all of this, it is going to be the first step, especially if you are someone that is already kind of like up to here when it comes to feeling overwhelmed. If your every minute of every day is full of serving other people, doing things for other people, whether it's in your home or in work or in your personal life, you are already not really familiar with how you feel right now, what you need right now. So this is a great way for you to just start thinking about what you want by just starting with, kind of like the bottom of the totem pole in the sense of the survival mode, because you're probably in survival mode if you're just moving, right? And if you're in survival mode, then you need to really get attuned to, well, what do I need? What do I need right now? Because if you're in survival mode, you're doing things back to back to back, thinking you need to do that to survive when you really need to relax and give your body what it truly needs, which is a moment to breathe, to be, to experience pleasure in the sense of experience things that are going to create joy and positive emotions. It could be smiling, it could be talking to a family member, but being present in that space. Like, give yourself permission to do those things, and that is going to put you in a place to really connect to what you actually want to do to get more of the things that I said: money, impact, influence, all the things. So that is step one. I know that's a long step one, but that is definitely step one. Give yourself a moment to break, pause, get back to yourself, and start giving yourself the advice that you would give someone else to yourself and start following that. So once you get into that space, and it might take a couple of reps, a couple of times for you to do that so that you can get a sense of where you are and be back in a place of actually taking, some new advice to do some new steps, it'll get you to the place where you're not feeling super anxious of doing something new, because having to stop yourself to be in this space of taking care of what you need in that moment, that can be uncomfortable, especially when we say, I don't have time for that, right? So you don't got time to breathe, you don't got time to take a walk, you don't got time to enjoy life. I'm saying it like that with these facial expressions because if that is your thought, then you need to change your life, because now you're putting yourself in a place where you're not even enjoying life at all. If you feel like, I don't got time for that, right? You need to make time for that, because that is what's going to help you have a better, well being in your life in general. So, all right, that was my little commercial break. But so, for that being said, you might have to take some practice to do that because it can be uncomfortable when we've been just going, going, going. But once you get to a place where, okay, I'm taking more time for myself, I'm slowing myself down a little bit, I really want you to consider, what could you have if you didn't care what other people think? What could you have if you didn't care about making any mistakes? So those two things, what people think and if you didn't make any mistakes, right? And I think the answer to this question, or considering those two things when you're answering this, is so important because it will really open up what you truly desire, right? So if you didn't care what people thought, what would you do? So for me at the time, I was in my position as an executive director of the nonprofit that I currently am also a co-founder in. And I had only been in that role for about 2 years, and I had been the company director for like 12 years plus at the time. And so I was afraid that if I left, people would say, oh, you're trying to do this too soon. And then I wanted to get into a role that would cause me to do more leadership development and speaking. And so I was thinking like, oh, people are going to say, oh, you haven't been in corporate spaces. You haven't been doing speaking on a regular, although I had been not only co-founding a company, but in performances, in the community, working in different spaces where I was making presentations in corporate environments, even though I wasn't like a keynote speaker in those spaces. Ooh, shaking. But I was in so many different spaces where speaking is what I have been doing most of my life, if not all of my life. And so I still had this thought that if I move into this space where I'm saying that this is what I do, that people would think that I'm not good enough. And I was afraid that I would be leaving my community of people to do things with adults and corporate professionals where I was doing so much in the community and I was so attached to the youth that I was working with and the young people that I was working with that I was afraid of what people would think about me. And so when I actually said what I wanted, regardless of what people think about me, it highlighted what was really deep in my soul, in my heart, and what I desired to do. And then the other one is, so thinking about what would I do or what could I do if I didn't worry what people would think about me? And then what could I do if I wasn't so worried about making mistakes? And so me putting myself out there as a coach, a speaker, and all of that, I was worried about not doing it right. I knew that I always wanted to help people fulfill their fullest potential. I always wanted to do that in whatever area. I loved helping people transition in their career to a different career path because I did some career advising for years. I also really enjoyed helping people use their voice. So a lot of people come to me because I'm really emotionally intelligent when it comes to social awareness. So a lot of people come to me about how they should articulate things to people, whether it's their clients, whether it's their higher ups, whether it's their employees. And so I used to feel like, well, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to tell somebody something wrong. Or I don't want to create courses or do seminars and workshops and I teach someone something and they say they did it, they didn't like it and something happens, all the things, right? And when I realized that, hey, what would I do if I didn't worry about that and it was still those things? It was again a sign like this is what I ought to be doing. So I get to work through those fears. And so I want you to write down what it is, right? What are those things that you would do if those things didn't matter, the fear of what people would think or the fear of making mistakes, right? And sometimes the two kind of together. But if those are things that are on your mind, even with the fear of what people think, one of my clients, I love her. She has so many great things that are on the whatever the line for her. What is it called? On the brink. Whatever people say. But I'm so excited about her because she was afraid to talk to her boss about just like the inequity of the way work was being distributed in her organization, and she was the person that was super dope at what she was doing in her organization. So obviously everybody wanted her to do things, but it just created this inequity. And I have definitely been in that place where you're really good at what you do, you enjoy what you do, so everybody's asking you to do it, and you are being the yes person, you're being the yes ma'am or yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes sir, or whatever. And now you created this space where you are overwhelmed with all the things you're saying yes to that you say you love, right? But now it's become so much that you feel like, okay, there's some inequity here. I'm not getting paid more for doing more of this. Nobody else is getting asked to do this. So I feel like I'm the one that stretched the most. And so I totally related to her in so many ways with that. And so our conversation was really about giving yourself permission to say what you desire and letting go of the feel or the need to feel needed. I had this need to feel needed. I felt connected. I'm a recovering people pleaser as well. And so, with that being said, like letting go of the need to get that external validation and validating myself, like, oh, I know I'm great at helping transform people's lives. I know I'm a great speaker. I know I'm a great facilitator. And I also get to have time for myself. I also get time for vacation and not having to always be on the go and always be on the road and giving myself permission to say no. And that doesn't mean I'm not good at what I do. And it doesn't mean I don't care about people. And so being able to have those like come to Jesus moments with myself and helping my clients do the same has allowed myself to say no to things that are going to be overwhelming for my life, keeping me from being in a place of rest and balance so that I can actually do more and impact people more because now I'm doing it from a full cup without really compromising my own well-being, which I have done. And for my client, it allowed her the courage to leave her job. I'm so proud of her for leaving her job. And now she's on the brink of two really great job offers that I'm so excited for her to do. And here's the thing. So when I work with people like this, it's not because I'm helping them do their resumes. I have given people feedback on their resumes. And I used to do resumes back in the day. I don't do that anymore. And also in the sense of I'm not writing, cover letters. I'm not telling them where to go. We're not doing all of this when I'm helping people with their career. I am just helping them see what they are too blind to see in the moment because they're in the rat race. That's what I'm helping them do. And so when it comes to helping people get over that need to work, that fear of people, it is really about, hey, how can I just see my own value? And I can't do that if I don't even consider, well, what would I have if I wasn't worried about that? And so that's why I think the power of these two questions are going to be so important to you in this, journey of you discovering getting more for yourself. I also want you to think of if it is, so I feel like those two questions, what people think if you were going to make mistakes, I think a lot of those end up aligning to, career paths or if you want to start a business. Like for me, it did both because it was me starting my business as a speaker, coach, and author and all the things. And it also was a question that I asked myself when I was transitioning careers from the nonprofit world as an executive director, as well as I actually ran my dance company while also working a full-time job for many years too. So there was a part of my journey where I was full-time working for my dance company and consulting. And there were times where I was working for my nonprofit and working for other nonprofits. But the point is, most of my early career, was working in nonprofits, working on the program side of nonprofits, being out in the community, doing work. Some of it was financial literacy, some of it was with universities and such. So I did so many things there. And then I wanted to transition into a world where I would be in a corporate position, even though some of the work that I did in corporate still allowed me to do work in some nonprofit spaces a lot, mostly in the education realm. I did things and some were government. associations. And so, with that being said, I was kind of like changing out to be in this corporation where I'm doing more work in the education realm or government realm, and still doing, work in my personal business as well. And so, it was a bit of a jump for me. It was a different world. And so, I had to think about myself differently because I was going into a different career space, but I was also having to think about myself differently because I was going into really a different business space. My first business was a nonprofit, and it was a business that I was doing with friends. My second one, the one that I currently have, is a business that I was doing solo dolo, and it was very different than working in nonprofit. It was, really working in spaces with individuals, speaking with organizations and corporations, and all of the things. And so those two questions can really help you in different ways as it relates to what you desire to do. So it can be on the career tip, it can be on the entrepreneur tip, or a passion project, something that you desire to do. Another thing that it could help you with, where I found that it's helped other clients, is just in your personal life, joy, enjoyment, how you want to enjoy your personal life. I've had some clients that they really just want to get better at, creating boundaries. And I think in my last video, I said I was going to create a video on boundaries. So if I get enough, juice today, I might do some, I might do another video that is around boundaries today, or I might do it another day. But it's really about creating boundaries. That question about, what is it that I would do if I didn't care what people think? It might cause you to think about, well, what is a boundary that I would create for myself? It also can, a personal boundaries, meaning like, I don't want to be at work all day long. I want to start saying no, kind of like my other, client that decided to leave her job. They really ultimately wanting to be better fit to have a conversation about what her boundaries were, but she ultimately decided to leave. And so that worked out for her. So thinking about that, but it can also be about money. There's been times where I didn't pitch myself for a speaking opportunity at the price point that I desired because I was worried about what people would think about how much I was asking for. There's been times where I did not negotiate for a higher salary. I learned my lesson on that, and I did it better later on because I was worried about what people think. So I really want you to take some time with those two things. Those two questions, what people think and what mistakes you would be afraid to make, because I think it could be very, very helpful. And if you didn't get what I said earlier, you can definitely rewind, but basically really want to make sure that you ask yourself the question, what is it that I could do if I didn't care what people think, or if I didn't make any mistakes? All right, so that can be a door opener. So one, we have this, get yourself in a place where you can breathe, be still, relax, and give yourself the advice that you need and start following it. When you start doing that, I'm sure 100% that you're going to give yourself some advice that's going to help you start being more relaxed, enjoying life, slowing down. That is the goal, and that is usually what people's advice is to themselves. It's so simple. Usually it's, I need to go to bed early. I'm going to stop watching TV. It's usually something small. Once you get to that place, you'll likely be in a better place to answer those two questions that I just gave you, and that will help you know. Now, once you get the answers to these questions, our first inclination is I got to start hurrying up and taking these huge pieces of action. Now, if you feel really excited about doing that, I'm like, go for it. I will also encourage that even if you do something big, think about some other small things that you can do to help you get closer to what you say. Because a lot of times, if we have spent an enormous amount of time in one way of living, when we start trying to do something that is way different than we've ever done it before, and we try to jump into it, our body or our brain, well, our body and our brain are going to be like, pump the brakes, emergency, Desiree is not being like herself, and we'll start self-sabotaging ourselves. So the easiest way to do it is to, and I don't want to say easy because, big steps is subjective. Something big for you today, like if you haven't been someone, for instance, that has ever decided to change their diet, right? And then maybe one day you wake up and you're like, I'm going to be plant-based vegan. And so you can go ahead and go cold turkey. Some people are really great at going cold turkey on certain things, and they just do it. And they never turn back, right? The majority of people are not that. The majority of people need to have a scaffold way of creating change in their life. So if that is you, which it may likely be you, consider what would be that big thing that you can do, but then also think about, well, what could be those small things that I do regularly on a regular basis that will help me work up to being that person, or totally embodying that person. And so I really encourage you to do that as well, because if you do that, that's really going to help you stay true to what it is that you want to do. And so when you think about the things that you answer, consider this. Okay, what are some small actions that I can do on a regular basis that will help me totally embody that person that I want to be? And so some small things that can help you totally embody that person has a lot to do with identity. So if you've read the book Atomic Habits, the quickest way to habit change is identity change. I'm not saying it exact, but the quickest way that you can change your habits is by changing your identity. And so when you think about those things that you desire to have or step into, really consider, who do I need to be in order for those things to come about right now? When you start thinking about who you need to be, I want you to think about qualities and characteristics. What is that person doing? How are they showing up? How are they waking up? How are they dressing? How are they acting? All of the things. What kind of lifestyle do they live? All those things. So really brain dump on who that person is. And I want you to take parts of who you have identified that person to be, and you start embodying those things. And so it might say, like, hey, the person that gets the promotion in my company, she actually, speaks up in meetings. She raises her hand and she says what's on her mind. Or, this is a person that, maybe this is a person that desires to make more income. Well, this person talks about the price of her services unapologetically. She doesn't hide behind anything around her prices. She just says what her prices are. In any situation, she's not waiting to tell people behind closed doors because the price is the price. So, whatever those things are, I would encourage you to write those things down. Write those things down and really give yourself an opportunity to start embodying those things. Maybe, you're getting your money right. Got to get my money right. Maybe you're getting your money right. And so you want to be more accustomed to having more of a luxury life, or being accustomed to doing things the way that you would want to do things, instead of on the low budget side, right? Maybe you a baller on a budget, right? Not the low budget, but everybody has a budget, no matter what. Everybody has a budget. Whether they use it or track it is a whole other thing, but you can't just not know how you're going to spend your money. And so maybe you want to have a budget that allows you to have more of the things that you desire in your life. And so maybe, as you budget for where you are right now, you start implementing some of those things, or putting yourself in the spaces of things that you desire. I used to go to apartment complexes and do the tours, or I would go to homes on the lake to do the tours. I desire waterfront property. Right now, the property that I live in has a pool, and I'm like, I have waterfront, right? I'm getting closer to what I desire. And so I want you to think about, how can you get closer to it? Well, one way to do that is to start embodying that person and really putting your foot into what is that identity. And so I hope this is helpful to you. I wanted this to be a guide. It's not going to be all comprehensive, but I do feel like what I told you are really great things that you can start doing now that will help you, again, get you closer to the more that you desire. Honestly, it has to come with self-awareness, and that's that first part, getting really aware of where you are, and then thinking about what is it that you desire. And then you got to start thinking about, well, who do I need to be so I can have those things? And honestly, it'll come to you. It always does. Every iteration of our life, when we desire to want something or we desire to have something, this is really the process. We got aware that something new needed to happen. We had to get aware of how, we were in our own way. Or we had to get back to, like, I don't even know what I'm doing with my life anymore. What do I want? I don't know. All of these questions can at least get you to a place of remembering what you desire now. And it may be different than what you said 10 years ago. And then you got to start embodying. Really change your life comes with everyday habits. And how do you change those habits to the ones that match your life? You have to think about, well, the person that has that life, what are they doing? I hope this was helpful to you. I was so excited to make this video. And if you are looking for help, I am creating a community this fall that will be working on identity shifting. And so you can go to my website, www.desireecocroft.com. And if you click on courses, you'll see my course Identity Shift, and it will be starting in a few weeks. I would love, love, love to have you there if you are a woman that is a professional leader, entrepreneur, and you know you need to make some shifts and you need a community that can help you with it. I am here to do that with you. So look forward to seeing you in my community. And if not, I'll see you definitely in this community on YouTube. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.